Good afternoon, proletariat! Welcome to Turbo Tuesday. Here at MBT Industries, we are constantly innovating our way to the Yugist revolution. Now, the working duelists of the world can't be led by just anybody, so before we can begin disassembling the oppressive metagame, we need to locate the boss to end all bosses, combing through 20 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! History in the process. As always, we'll give any fledgling leader of the Vanguard a quick once-over, a chance to prove themselves, and a performance review that will determine if they'll be called back to the next round of interviews, or if they'll need some effect adjustment at our re-education facility. Today's candidate is, probably racist in some way. ZUSHIN the Sleeping Giant. Before we check out today's corporate stooge, however, a word about our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck, the best online site for database searching, deck building, and strategy articles, all conveniently located at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now, let's take a look at that resume. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by tributing a monster you control with 10 ZUSHIN counters, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn, you can reveal this card in your hand, then target one level 1 normal monster you control, keep this card revealed until the end of the turn, place one ZUSHIN counter on it, unaffected by other card's effects. If this card battles a monster during damage calculation, attack and defense of this card become equal to the current attack and defense of the monster it is battling plus 1,000 during that damage calculation only. Oh, that is not good. By this point in our company's, how should I put this, ongoing attempt at permanent revolution within the context of Yu-Gi-Oh!, we can do just about anything. But waiting 10 turns? I'm a busy guy. I've got a lot of anime to watch, and sitting behind a messenger of peace isn't my idea of a good time. Now, I notice this effect is not a hard once per turn. So theoretically, if we could draw 3 of you, say, and then shuffle you back into the deck, we might be able to activate it 10 times. Of course, it'd have to be paired with the combo that could draw your entire deck in the first place, so I think the best course of action is to slot you into Dark Warrior and introduce you to my comrade on a very limited basis, TG Hyper-Librarian. Ideally, by looping Desynchro, we can draw all of you at once and fire the effect enough to awaken the Sleeping Giant. With that, let's send our leader to the Edo Pro ladder. Well, let's get this over with. Our opponent is playing Dragon Maid, and we have animations set to quick. Infer with that information whatever you like. We're going to lead with standard warrior combo stuff. We'll go into an Isold after activating the effect of Dolphin. We'll add a warrior to hand and then special summon from our deck a copy of Armageddonite. We'll activate Armageddonite's effect to summon a copy of Plague Spreader Zombie by tucking a card from our hand back into the deck, enabling a Halqifibrax summon followed by a Red Rose Dragon. That'll summon a White Rose upon synchro summon of this copy of Power Tool Dragon, which nets a DDR to our hand. From here, we'll use the Graveyard effect of Divine Sword Phoenix Blade alongside the recurrent effect of DDR by virtue of cards like Zephyros in order to repeatably summon this Armageddonite and get a Summoner Monk into our graveyard. We'll do Garrus it back, then activate the effect of Summoner Monk for Summoner Monk, adding this copy of Phoenix Blade back to hand before summoning an Intis from our deck and summoning a Rescue Ferret. We'll go to Alimbertion to get a copy of Desynchro and then make a generic 3-arrow down monster for Tuningware, Magicat, and Violon Cube. We'll summon a 4 to get a remaining DDR from our deck, then Desynchro it back into a Tuningware and a Violon Cube before going into a Linkcross, enabling a Synchro summon using Violon Cube of TG Hyper-Librarian and a Synchro summon of a level 6 Spellcaster type monster. In sequence, every time we summon this monster, we'll be triggering the effect of TG Hyper-Librarian to draw a card, Tuningware to draw a card, and Magicat to tuck this copy of Desynchro back on top of our deck. This will net us 1 additional card every time we complete the loop. You may notice there are 34 cards remaining in deck, so we're going to be here a while. In an effort not to tank my engagement, I'm going to use this time to read to you the card tips page of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Fandom Wiki for ZUSHIN the Sleeping Giant. Keep in mind, before matejatika engineered this combo, this is what I had to work with. Card tips. ZUSHIN the Sleeping Giant. This card can be searched by Dogu, Single Purchase, Painful Escape, Isold, Two Tales of the Noble Knights, and Frontline Observer. Summoning ZUSHIN. 1. Protecting the level 1 monster. The level 1 normal monster with the highest defense is Charcoal in Apache, making it useful for ZUSHIN as it will be a little difficult to destroy by battle, assuming you can manage to get it in defense position. Use cards that prevent attacks like Wall of Revealing Light to stall. Alternatively, use cards to eliminate your opponent's attacking monsters, such as Just a Break, Quaking Mirror Force, etc. To protect your level 1 normal monster in battle, use cards like Mist Body, Heart of Clear Water, Safe Zone, etc. Cards like Moon Mirror Shield and Attack of the Cornered Rat can guarantee your monster will win any battle. Flamvale Guard can be used with Dragon Shield. Petite Moth is a level 1 normal monster, so this card can be easily added to a Moth deck, since that deck requires heavy protection for Petite Moth anyway. In a Skull Servant deck, use Skull Servant as the level 1 normal monster, protecting it with cards like the Lady in White and Archfiend Zombie Skull. This card could fit in a deck focused on Destiny board due to the effect of Dark Sanctuary. Although one would normally win via the effect of Destiny board first, this card can serve as a backup plan in case all of the copies of a single Spirit Message card get used up, thus making victory by the effect of Destiny board impossible. Oh god. Accelerating the Summon, 2. If you have multiple copies of this card in your hand, there's nothing preventing them from using their effects on the same monster in the same turn. That's actually a helpful piece of advice. After this card has used its in-hand effect, discard it with Monster Reincarnation or Herald of Creation, and return it to the hand to reuse its effect. We'll be using Magical Mallet, but again, not terrible. Protecting the Summon. When the time comes to summon this monster, one can use cards like Anti-Magic Arrows or the effect of Dodge or Dragon to ensure its summon won't be negated. However, this approach will not stop monster effects such as those of Thunder King Ryo and Stardust Warrior. Once in play, this card is almost an invincible beatstick. Although it can only inflict 1,000 battle damage per battle, use Mound of the Bound Creator to inflict more damage when it destroys the monsters as well. Cards like Final Attack Orders, Battle Mania, All-Out Attacks, etc. can prevent the opponent from hiding behind defense position monsters. If the opponent decides not to summon any monsters, cards like Ojama Trio or Grinder Golem can get around this. Fun fact, this is why Grinder Golem was banned. Alternatively, this card can be used to stall. If the opponent has no method to get rid of this card, they will eventually deck out. The controller of ZUSHIN can use Meteor Flare, Spirit Burner, etc. to keep themselves from decking out by discarding them for the hand size limit while stalling. Instead of waiting for the opponent to deck out, one can use tactics such as Final Countdown, Wave Motion Cannon, etc. to hasten victory. Because we only have 6 cards remaining in deck, I'll cut it there, but keep in mind, there are 30 bullet points under the subheading Countering ZUSHIN. Someone had a very bad time on Edo Pro. We're going to activate the effect of Desynchro a couple more times, summoning back this copy of Magicat, this Tuning Ware, and this copy of Plague Spreader Zombie. We'll activate it with 3 cards remaining in deck, each time drawing an additional card because of the continuous draw effects of both TG Hyper Librarian and Tuning Ware, which we get to activate on every summon. The 6-star Synchro is of course mutable. It could be anything, provided it's a level 5 or 6 Spellcaster type monster. Finally, with 1 card remaining in deck, we'll tuck that Desynchro on top and draw a couple of cards before firing it one last time. From here, we'll link summon a copy of Saruya. We'll use its effect to summon a Key Mace, and now it's time to activate ZUSHIN. We'll activate the 3 that are currently in our hand before firing off a Magical Mallet and shuffling them back. We'll activate each one again, and at this point, the biggest impediment to its summon is selecting an individual card from our enormous grip. Finally, we'll activate them one last time. We have 1 Magical Mallet remaining and 9 counters on our Key Mace. As we do so, we can activate Sword of Deep-Seated before sending the Key Mace to the graveyard, so we still have a card remaining in our library. From here, we can set as many cards as possible, and this is going to be one heck of an end step. Nice. We'll pass back to our opponent, who will lead with a Parlor. They'll activate Quick Launch to get a copy of Rocket Synchron. They'll summon a Romulus and use Romulus's effect for a Dragon Ravine. They'll activate Dragon Ravine, and as they go to cleanup, I will call by every single Dragon Maid from the graveyard. This forces them to summon a Laundry, which doesn't really mull anything too good. All we have to get through is this Heavenly Spheres. Unfortunately, we kind of can't. Oh my god, are we going to deck ourselves? Well, we can get in for 24. We can use Marauding Captain and Sword of Deep-Seated to summon a second copy of Saruya, putting the sword back for 1 additional turn. But if our opponent does anything, we are kind of in hot water. They draw Chamber Dragon Maid, an exceptional rip off the top, then Hospitality back a Nurse. That's going to summon a Parlor in defense. Whoa! Suddenly, we might have a problem. They'll go for Nurse. They'll go to Battle Phase to tuck into a copy of Airness and tag out that Chamber for a second one as well. They'll tag back into a Nurse before passing it back to us, and oh god, we are going to have an issue. They're going to summon a Chamber so that our copy of Dolphin, unfortunately, can only get the Laundry from hand, but by pitching this copy of Deep-Seated, we bought ourselves another turn. We'll activate the effect of Saruya, boosting the attack of our Living Fossiled copy of Dark Grepher, but it's likely not enough. We can still go into the Synchro, but as I attack into their monsters, I realize that ZUSHIN only gains the attack and defense, not of which is higher, but the flat ones. So as long as my opponent's card has a bigger butt than a front, we can't get over it with our unstoppable boss monster. And what could be worse but an unstoppable boss monster of our opponent's 5-headed Link Dragon? Now, it doesn't stand up to ZUSHIN, but it's a fantastic way to prevent me from doing damage. Every time we attack it, we do 1,000, but they're on a 5-turn clock, and we do not have 5 ways to get that Sword of Deep-Seated back into the deck. They're going to go into a straw. That is great news, because we can equip their attack position monster with a sword, deal 1,000, then tuck the sword back into the deck. We're getting there, albeit slowly. We draw it for turn, we'll equip it to our opponent's monster, and they've realized that by passing they can win the game. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to get rid of that sword, and as they pass it back to us, our ZUSHIN falls. Well, we're back. And just how did ZUSHIN the Sleeping Giant perform? Let's consult our super scientific metrics above. I'm giving this tease and denial expert a 1 in terms of consistency. Having to play 60-card Dark Warrior is never where we want to be, and navigating Magical Mallet doesn't improve things. I'm giving this 5D's boss locked in localization a 1 in terms of investment. I mean, look at this. You can't splash ZUSHIN no matter what fandom tells you. Even if you're on a slow control deck, good luck keeping Key Mace on field for 10 turns. I'm giving the devastating Jin a 2 in terms of payoff. Realistically, there are very few things that out an unaffected and battle-immune monster. That said, you're drawing your whole deck. If your payoff doesn't literally win you the game on the spot, it's probably not worth your time. That said, my final verdict is a pass on ZUSHIN the Sleeping Giant. Jillian, ensure the dub doesn't get this episode.